that really stood out to me, and I just kept asking him to replay it over and over and over again, is that there's no blood. There's no blood from the back. There is no blood. So I think a lot of people were wondering whether or not that bullet pierced and went out the back. I think I vaguely even remember, and Skylar, you can maybe live look this up, but like I thought the feds were saying they were looking for a bullet at some point, which is now very alarming to me. I don't understand that. How could they have been looking for a bullet? Because if I'm not seeing, and there isn't, I'm telling you, what happens in the front is not what happens in the back at all. If I'm not seeing any blood, what are we to...
The funeral of Charlie Kirk was supposed to be a solemn, historic event, a moment for allies, enemies, and admirers alike to gather under one roof and honor a man who had built his empire out of controversy, fire, and spectacle. But what happened inside those church doors didn't just spark whispers, it triggered an explosion. Because in the middle of hushed prayers and staged tributes, one of the most shocking moments of the year unfolded. Candace Owens, once considered one of Charlie's closest allies, was kicked out of his funeral. The world was stunned. No one could believe it. Cameras weren't supposed to be allowed inside, but grainy clips leaked anyway. Candace, visibly enraged, whispering harsh words to a staffer before storming out, her heels clicking against the marble floor like gunshots. Guests turned, jaws dropped. Even the pallbearers paused for a moment as murmurs rippled through the crowd. What had happened? Why had one of the most high-profile names in conservative politics been escorted out of the service? At first, no one knew. Rumors swirled. Some said Candace had shown up uninvited. Others swore she had tried to hijack the eulogy. A few even claimed she had disrespected the widow with a remark so cutting it couldn't be ignored. But then, just when the speculation reached its peak, Dave Chappelle, the last man anyone expected to speak out about Charlie Kirk's funeral, stepped forward, and the truth he revealed didn't just shock it, tore the internet apart. In a stand-up set that blurred the line between comedy and confession, Dave paused mid-performance, shook his head, and muttered, "You want to know why Candace Owens got thrown out? Y'all ain't ready for that truth." The crowd roared with laughter, at first thinking it was just another setup to a punchline. But the way Dave's tone shifted, the way his smile faded, told everyone in the room that this wasn't a joke. He leaned in, his voice dropping low. They didn't throw her out for talking too loud. They didn't throw her out for disrespecting anybody. They threw her out because she knew something she wasn't supposed to say out loud. And she said it right there in the middle of the funeral. The audience gasped. Social media exploded. Fans clipped the set instantly and posted it everywhere. The hashtag #CandaceFuneral fight shot to the top of the charts. People weren't laughing anymore. They were panicking. What did Candace say? What secret was so dangerous that she had to be dragged out of a funeral in front of God, family, and cameras? And here's the kicker: Dave claimed he had receipts. He didn't name names outright, but he teased that he had been there, that he had seen what went down, and that if the public knew the real reason, the entire narrative around Charlie Kirk's death, his legacy, and his widow would flip upside down. The internet nearly broke that night. Tweets screamed, "Wait, Dave was at the funeral. This can't be real." No way. Candace got exposed by Dave Chappelle of all people. Somebody leaked the footage now. And leak it did. Hours later, a shaky, hidden phone recording began circulating online. It showed Candace standing up mid-service, whispering something to a row of guests, her face twisted with anger. Though the audio was muffled, one phrase cut through clearly. "You all know what really happened to Charlie." That was it. The entire internet froze. Did Candace Owens try to expose a secret about Charlie Kirk's death at his own funeral? Did she cross a line so dangerous that even his widow ordered her removal? And why was Dave Chappelle, of all people, the one confirming it? The hook was set. The crowd was in chaos. And as Dave Chappelle himself said in that chilling set, "Trust me, you don't throw Candace Owens out of a funeral unless she hit a nerve so deep. They're terrified it'll bleed out in public." So now, the world isn't just asking why she was kicked out. They're asking, what secret did Candace Owens try to reveal about Charlie Kirk? Why are so many powerful people desperate to shut her up? Because if Dave Chappelle is right, this isn't just funeral drama. This is the beginning of something much darker. To truly understand why Candace Owens' sudden removal from Charlie Kirk's funeral has shaken the internet, why Dave Chappelle's revelation is even more explosive, we have to go back to the tangled history between Charlie Kirk, Candace Owens, the conservative movement, and the shadowy tensions that had been simmering beneath the surface for years. Because the truth is, Candace's ejection wasn't some random outburst or misunderstanding. It was the culmination of years of betrayal, rivalry, and secrets that were bound to explode in the most dramatic setting imaginable. Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens were once seen as the dynamic duo of a new conservative generation. Their fiery speeches, viral soundbites, and unapologetic rhetoric made them headline grabbers, lightning rods of controversy, and rising stars in the same ecosystem. To outsiders, they looked unstoppable together, two forces tearing through mainstream politics. Hand in hand, building audiences that adored them and enemies that loathed them. But insiders knew better. Behind the scenes, their relationship was anything but harmonious. According to alleged former staffers, Candace always felt like she was in Charlie's shadow. He treated her like an accessory, not an equal one, insider claimed. She wanted to lead, but he wanted her to play backup. That resentment only grew. The tension reached a boiling point during their joint appearances. In one infamous clip that has since resurfaced, Charlie cut Candace off mid-sentence during a panel, dismissing her point with a sarcastic laugh. Candace smiled on stage, but eagle-eyed viewers caught the flash of fury in her eyes. That was the moment she decided she wasn't going to let him hold her back anymore. A political blogger later wrote, as Charlie's influence expanded, so did the cracks in his alliances. Rumors swirled that Candace was negotiating her own deals behind his back, brand partnerships, media appearances, even meetings with donors Charlie considered his personal territory. One alleged leaked email from a frustrated Kirk staffer described her as opportunistic. Always angling, always pushing boundaries, Charlie drew. The feud didn't stay private for long. Followers noticed when the two stopped appearing together as frequently. Social media sleuths highlighted passive-aggressive subtweets that seemed aimed at one another. At one point, Candace tweeted, "Some people mistake leadership for control. That's why their empires fall faster than they're built." Fans debated whether the jab was about Charlie, but in hindsight, it seems obvious. And then there was the widow. Charlie's wife had long been the shadow player, the strategist behind his rise, as we've already uncovered. But her relationship with Candace was icy at best. Insiders whispered about tense dinners, snide remarks, and a power struggle between two women who refused to yield an inch. One leaked text, allegedly from a staffer close to the family, described their dynamic bluntly. "It's like watching two queens fight for one throne." So when Charlie died, the stage was set for fireworks. Many expected Candace to play a prominent role in his funeral, honoring their past work together. But instead, she was treated coldly, her name absent from the official program. That was the first red flag. One attendee later said, "It was clear she wasn't welcome." And yet Candace showed up anyway, head held high, dressed in black. A storm in her eyes. Her presence alone was enough to send whispers through the pews. Guests exchanged uneasy glances. Some clutched their programs tighter. The tension was so thick you could feel it buzzing in the air. Then came the fateful moment, the moment Dave Chappelle would later describe as the crack that split the entire funeral in half. According to multiple eyewitnesses, Candace leaned over to a row of high-profile attendees and hissed something that instantly changed the mood. No one could hear it clearly at first, but one phrase echoed just enough. "You all know what really happened to Charlie." That single line turned a solemn service into a ticking time bomb. Heads snapped in her direction. The widow's face reportedly turned white with fury. Within seconds, staffers moved in, whispering for Candace to leave. But she didn't go quietly. She argued, She gestured sharply toward the front of the church. And though no microphones were on her, lip readers swear she mouthed the words, "You can't silence me forever." And then she was gone, escorted out, her heels clicking like gunfire. Her departure as dramatic as her entrance. But what's important is what happened next. The widow, visibly shaken, paused the service briefly. Guests whispered, phones buzzed, and the atmosphere shifted from grief to paranoia. What did Candace mean? What did she know? This is where Dave Chappelle enters the story in the most unlikely twist. While the world debated the funeral chaos, Dave dropped his bombshell during a comedy set. And the way he framed it made the internet lose its mind. He claimed that Candace wasn't kicked out for disrespect, but for daring to speak the one thing no one was supposed to say out loud, that Charlie's death wasn't what it seemed, and that his widow knew far more than she let on. Fans couldn't believe it. Dave Chappelle, a comedian known for exposing uncomfortable truths under the guise of jokes, had just confirmed the darkest suspicion: Candace Owens had tried to blow the lid off a secret during the funeral itself. Memes exploded. Think pieces flooded the web. One headline screamed, "Candace Owens removed for telling too much. Chappelle confirms the unthinkable." Another warned, "If what Chappelle says is true, this scandal isn't about politics anymore. It's about survival." The background was now clear. Candace and Charlie had been rivals disguised as allies. Her relationship with his widow was toxic, and the funeral was the final battlefield. But the most important question was still unanswered. What secret was so dangerous, so terrifying, that it got Candace Owens physically removed from a funeral? Jaguar Wright had set the internet on fire with her widow allegations. Dave Chappelle had poured gasoline on it. And now the public was demanding the full truth. Because if Candace was silenced in that church, what else is being silenced right now? And how deep does this betrayal go? The funeral chaos had already gone viral. The feud between Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk's widow was headline news. But what happened next, the first major conflict, turned the scandal from shocking drama into full-blown war. Eyewitness accounts from inside the funeral began leaking. Anonymous attendees messaged journalists, bloggers, even random Twitter users claiming they saw exactly what went down. And the details were jaw-dropping. One attendee swore Candace didn't just whisper about what really happened to Charlie. She allegedly stood up mid-service, eyes blazing, and muttered just loud enough for the front rows to hear, "You all are sitting here pretending. But he was set up. His death wasn't natural." The claim detonated like a bomb. Guests gasped. The widow reportedly froze in place, and within seconds, staff moved in to hush Candace. But Candace didn't stop there. According to another leaked account, she pointed at the front row where Charlie's widow sat and hissed, "Ask her. She knows." The whispers turned into shouts as guests realized the unthinkable. Candace wasn't accusing random outsiders. She was pointing the finger directly at the widow inside the church. During the funeral, in front of family, cameras, and dignitaries, security quickly intervened. Eyewitnesses described a chaotic scene: Candace arguing fiercely, her voice echoing off the church walls. One viral tweet claimed to have light breathed her final words before being escorted out. "The truth will come out, whether you like it or not." But then came the first twist. Hours later, a grainy clip began circulating online, allegedly filmed by a hidden phone. The video showed Candace being pulled toward the back doors. But over the choir singing, her voice rang out clearly. Stop protecting her. Charlie deserved better. The internet erupted. Who was her? Most assumed she meant the widow. But conspiracy forums argued she might have been pointing at someone else entirely: a donor, a politician, or even a high-profile figure in the front rows. The ambiguity fueled an inferno of theories. And then Dave Chappelle fanned the flames. In his now infamous comedy set, he didn't just confirm Candace was kicked out for speaking. He claimed she had threatened to expose specific evidence. According to Dave, Candace wasn't ranting. She had something. She had a file, a document, something she brought in her purse. That's why they dragged her out. They were scared she'd drop it right there. The crowd gasped. Fans online went ballistic. Was Candace carrying proof that Charlie's death wasn't what it seemed? Did she plan to reveal it in the most dramatic way possible, at his own funeral? Twitter exploded. Candace had the receipts in her purse. No wonder they panicked. This is a setup. They silenced her before she could show the world. Dave just confirmed everything Jaguar Wright hinted at last week. Theories multiplied. Some swore Candace had recordings of private conversations with Charlie, confessions that pointed to betrayal. Others insisted she had financial records linking the widow to powerful enemies. A few even claimed she had messages between Charlie and Candace herself, proving he feared being sabotaged. The tension only escalated when Jaguar Wright herself jumped in. She posted a cryptic video on Instagram, smirking into the camera. Candace tried. They stopped her. But don't worry, still got mine. The internet froze. Was Jaguar confirming that Candace had evidence? Was she hinting that she had her own? Suddenly, to women's Jaguar, Wright, and Candace Owens were being painted as reluctant allies and exposing Charlie's widow, and that's when the widow finally moved. According to reports, her lawyers contacted several media outlets threatening defamation suits if they aired clips of Candace's removal. This only made people more suspicious. Why silence the footage if Candace was just causing a scene? Why not let the world see her melt down for itself? The widow's silence turned into a weapon. Each refusal to comment looked less like dignity and more like fear. And her few vague Instagram posts, Bible verses, black backgrounds only fueled speculation. One post read, "The devil speaks loudest when he's desperate." Fans instantly debated whether she was referring to Candace, Jaguar, or both. But the biggest twist of all came days later, when an anonymous source leaked what they claimed was a message from Candace's inner circle. In it, Candace allegedly told a confidant, "They'll regret throwing me out. I'll show everything. If they thought the funeral was bad, wait until I drop the tapes." The word tape sent shockwaves through the internet. What tapes? Did Candace really have recordings? And if so, why hadn't she released them yet? The scandal was no longer about a funeral outburst. It was about potential evidence files, tapes, and secrets that could rewrite everything we thought we knew about Charlie Kirk's death. His widow and the power struggle consuming his empire, and the world waited in dread. Because if Candace really had the tapes, their release wouldn't just ruin reputations. It could burn down the entire movement. The first twist, the whispers about Candace Owens carrying tapes in her purse. The insinuation that she had evidenced Charlie Kirk's death wasn't natural, was already enough to rattle the internet to its core. But what happened next? The escalation turned this scandal into something monstrous. Something so tangled in lies, secrets, and betrayals that even seasoned journalists admitted they had never seen anything like it. 3 days after the funeral chaos, an anonymous Dropbox link began circulating on Twitter and Reddit. The caption read, "Candace wasn't lying. Here's the first tape." The link vanished within hours, but not before thousands had downloaded its contents. And what they heard was chilling. The audio was muffled, but clear enough. It was allegedly a phone call between Charlie Kirk and an unidentified confidant. Charlie's voice, weary and tense, said, "I don't trust them anymore. She's hiding things from me. If something happens, remember what I told you, it won't be an accident." The internet imploded. Was this the smoking gun? Did Charlie himself suspect betrayal before his death? And who was she? The widow? Someone else in his circle? Twitter hashtags erupted. Hashtag Charlie knew. Hashtag not an accident. Hashtag funeral tapes. Theories exploded like fireworks. Some said it proved the widow had been plotting. Others argued it was a fake audio file designed to fuel conspiracy. But the damage was done. The doubt was cemented. Then Dave Chappelle dropped his second bomb. In a late-night set in Chicago, he doubled down on his earlier claims. "Y'all think Candace just showed up at the funeral to mourn? Hell no. She came ready, purse full of dynamite. They stopped her before she could light the fuse. But trust me's coming. You think she gonna stay quiet after being humiliated like that? Now, meanwhile, Jaguar Wright entered the ring again. She released her own live stream, grinning with that trademark fire in her eyes. They thought dragging Candace out would end this. No, baby, that was just the beginning. Because I've got my own tapes. And let me tell you, they don't just incriminate her, the widow. They incriminate everyone at the table. The phrase "everyone at the table" sent shivers across social media. What table? Was Jaguar referencing the secret meetings she had hinted at before? Was she about to drag not just Charlie's widow, but a whole network of powerful names into the scandal? Within hours, the memes, edits, and theories reached fever pitch. TikTok creators began reenacting what they imagined went down at the funeral, complete with dramatic tape reveal skits. YouTube channels released hour-long breakdowns of the leaked audio, running it through analysis software, trying to authenticate Charlie's voice. Podcasts devoted entire episodes to debating whether Candace and Jaguar were allies, rivals, or pawns in an even bigger game. But the escalation didn't stop there. Another leak surfaced, a supposed email chain between Candace and a mysterious donor. In it, Candace allegedly wrote, "If they silence me at the funeral, I'll go public. The widow won't survive the truth." The donor's reply, "Release carefully. The fallout will be nuclear." The word nuclear went viral instantly. Fans joked about it, but others saw it as proof of something catastrophic brewing behind closed doors. The widow, for her part, remained silent. But silence was no longer interpreted as dignity, was interpreted as guilt. Her Instagram posts became darker, a single candle burning. A verse about betrayal, a caption reading, "The truth will always cut through the noise." Instead of sympathy, the posts triggered more rage. One viral reply read, "Then why are you hiding, sis? If you're innocent, drop your receipts." And then came the reveal that turned the scandal upside down. A new anonymous Twitter account, @ShadowWitness, posted a claim that set the internet ablaze. The funeral wasn't about mourning. It was about control. Candace wasn't thrown out for lying. She was thrown out because she almost exposed who really controls the movement now. Attached to the tweet was a blurry photo of a group leaving the funeral together, Charlie's widow, two powerful donors, and a celebrity with known ties to both politics and entertainment. The caption read simply, "This is the table Jaguar was talking about." The photo spread like wildfire. Reddit exploded with diagrams mapping out alleged connections between everyone in the picture. YouTubers posted breakdowns titled "The Widow's Network Exposed." Suddenly, the scandal wasn't just about Candace versus the widow. It was about an entire machina network of money, power, and influence that Candace had dared to speak about in the middle of a funeral. And just when people thought it couldn't escalate further, a final shock hit the timeline. A whistleblower claiming to be a former staffer of Charlie's movement leaked a chilling statement. Candace isn't bluffing. The tapes are real. And they don't just prove betrayal. They prove why Charlie never stood a chance. The world stopped. What did that mean? Did it imply foul play? Did it suggest Charlie's downfall had been engineered all along? The escalation was complete. What began as a chaotic funeral scene had spiraled into a worldwide scandal involving leaked tapes, anonymous whistleblowers, and a shadow network of power players. But the most terrifying part was Jaguar Wright's final tease. "You think this is over? Wait until you see who's protecting her. The names I've got will shake this whole damn industry." The cliffhanger was set. The next revelation wouldn't just expose Charlie's widow. It would drag the entire machine into the fire. The moment the leaks hit the internet, the public response was nothing short of volcanic. It wasn't just a scandal anymore, it was a cultural civil war. Charlie Kirk's funeral, which should have been a quiet moment of mourning, had now become the epicenter of an international spectacle. With Candace Owens, the widow Jaguar, right? And now Dave Chappelle standing at the heart of it, Twitter was unrecognizable. The hashtags #CharlieKnew, #funeral tapes, and #Widow Network dominated trending lists for days. Millions of posts poured in every hour as ordinary people, influencers, and celebrities alike picked sides and poured gasoline on the fire. One side rallied behind Candace Owens, convinced she had been silenced for daring to speak the truth. Their threads were filled with memes of her being escorted out of the funeral, captioned with lines like, "They fear her. That's why they kicked her out." Others framed her as a martyr, calling her the only one brave enough to say out loud what everyone was already whispering. But just as many lined up against her. Candace's critics mocked her as opportunistic, accusing her of hijacking a funeral to push herself back into the spotlight. One viral tweet read, "Candace turned someone else's funeral into her stage. That's not bravery, that's narcissism." And caught in the middle was Dave Chappelle. His comments, once brushed off as part of his comedy routine, had now been elevated to the status of testimony. Fans debated endlessly. Was Dave joking, or was he deliberately using comedy to smuggle the truth into the public? Memes spread with Dave's face captioned, "When the comedian tells more truth than the politicians." TikTok was even wilder. Creators uploaded dramatic reenactments of the funeral chaos, complete with candlelight, fake eulogies, and actors playing Candace being dragged out by security. The leaked audio of Charlie's alleged warning, "If something happens, it won't be an accident," was clipped into an ominous TikTok sound, overlaid onto videos with flashing headlines and dark conspiratorial montages. It was everywhere. Instagram fueled the frenzy with body language experts, breaking down every movement of the widow during the funeral. One clip went viral claiming her blink rate was too low during Charlie's eulogy. It's as if she were suppressing rage rather than grief. The comment section was filled with accusations like, "She wasn't mourning, she was calculating." The entertainment industry itself couldn't keep quiet. Celebrities chimed in from every corner. A controversial rapper declared on Instagram Live, "Candace got silenced because she knows too much. That funeral was fake as hell." Meanwhile, a conservative radio host slammed the entire fiasco, saying Jaguar Wright and Dave Chappelle are clout chasing. A widow is being terrorized during her time of grief. The split wasn't just ideologically, was personal. Friendships broke online. Podcasts devoted hours to debating the scandal. Late-night shows turned it into a monologue topic. And through it all, Jaguar Wright stoked the fire with cryptic live streams and tweets, dropping vague hints about bigger names and sealed files. Even mainstream news couldn't ignore it. But what united everyone, supporters and critics alike, was the gnawing sense that something bigger was lurking under the surface. That the truth, whatever it was, hadn't come out yet. And as Jaguar Wright herself teased in her latest live stream, "You thought Candace blew the whistle? Nah, she just cracked the door. I'm the one kicking it down." The reactions weren't just emotional, they were escalating. And the stage was now set for one last, devastating twist. The storm was already deafening. Candace Owens dragged out of a funeral. Dave Chappelle dropping cryptic confirmations. Jaguar Wright dangling her own arsenal of tapes. But nothing could have prepared the world for the final twist. Because just when everyone thought they had pieced the puzzle together, a revelation surfaced that flipped the entire scandal upside down. It began with an anonymous email blast sent to journalists, influencers, and even random Twitter accounts. The subject line was bone-chilling. The widow's deal. Inside was a single, attachmental alleged minutes from a secret meeting held just days before Charlie Kirk's funeral. The document described a closed-door gathering between Charlie's widow and 3 high-profile figures from both politics and entertainment. According to the notes, the widow didn't appear broken or grieving. She appeared strategic. One line stood out in bold: "Control the narrative. Candace must be contained. If she speaks, everything collapses." The internet froze. Screenshots of the email went viral instantly. Reddit users dissected every sentence. Was this the real reason Candace had been ejected from the funeral? Not because of disrespect, but because she posed a direct threat to the narrative. And then, out of nowhere, Candace herself broke her silence. In a fiery Instagram live, her face lit by the glow of her phone. She declared, "They dragged me out because I was about to show you the truth. I had the tapes with me that day. I was going to play them right there in the church. They stopped me, but they won't stop me forever." The comments section went berserk. Thousands of viewers begged, "Drop them now." Others screamed, "You're bluffing." But Candace wasn't laughing. She leaned closer to the camera and whispered, "Charlie told me he was afraid. He told me who he didn't trust. And I've got it all recorded." Then she ended the stream. The cliffhanger sent the internet into a frenzy. If Candace truly had recordings of Charlie's final confessions, it would be the most explosive political leak of the decade. And her timing dropping hints just as the anonymous widow's deal email leaked. Less like coincidence and more like coordinated warfare. But the twist wasn't over. Hours later, Jaguar Wright fired back in her own live stream. With her trademark fire, she snarled, "Candace thinks she's the only one holding receipts. No, baby, I've got tapes too. And mine don't just prove the widow's betrayal. They prove the entire industry is in on it." The chat went wild. Two women, once enemies, now circling the same target. Each claiming to hold evidence that could destroy Charlie's widow and everyone around her. The widow's silence, once seen as composure, now looked like pure panic. And then one last devastating leak. A grainy video clip allegedly filmed outside the funeral hall showed a heated confrontation between Candace and a man many identified as one of Charlie's closest advisors. The audio was poor, but one line rang clear. "If you play that tape, you'll put all of us in danger." The internet stopped breathing. In danger? From what? From who? Suddenly, the scandal wasn't just about betrayal. It wasn't just about a widow or Candace or Jaguar. It was about something bigger, darker, hidden in the shadows of machines so powerful that even speaking its name could put lives at risk. And the widow. She finally reappeared. In a midnight Instagram story, just 2 words glowed in white text against a black background. Not over. The cliffhanger was complete. Candace claims to have tapes. Jaguar swears she has her own. The widow is silent but watching. Dave Chappelle keeps dropping breadcrumbs. And the entire world is left with one burning question. If the truth ever comes out, who will survive it? And now, after everything after the funeral, chaos. After Candace's shocking outburst, after Dave Chappelle's cryptic confirmations, after Jaguar Wright's relentless hints, after the leaked audios, emails, and videos, one truth remains. This story isn't finished. Not even close. The internet is on fire. Fans are screaming for Candace to drop the tapes. Jaguar is promising even bigger bombs. The widow is sending out cryptic messages that feel less like denials and more like warnings. And every single day, more leaks, more whispers, and more accusations surface. But here's where you come in. Because this scandal won't be decided by insiders or journalists will be decided in the court of public opinion. And that court is you. Do you believe Candace Owens? Was she silenced at Charlie Kirk's funeral because she carried evidence that could destroy the widow? Or was she exploiting the most solemn day of his life for her own agenda? Do you think Jaguar Wright is really holding industry-shattering receipts? Or is she fanning flames for clout? And most importantly, what do you think the widow is hiding in those sealed files, those whispered meetings, those cryptic posts? I want to hear your theories. Drop them in the comments. Argue, debate, expose. Because the more this story spreads, the harder it becomes for anyone, no matter how powerful, to bury the truth. Smash that like button if you want to see. Candace finally released the tapes. Share this video with everyone you know so the world sees just how deep this scandal goes. And don't forget to subscribe because this isn't the end. The next chapter is coming. Dave Chappelle has already promised he's not done talking. Jaguar is teasing names that will shake the industry. And Candace. She's standing on the edge of dropping everything. The widow thinks silence will protect her. But silence won't last forever. The truth is coming. And when it does, it's going to be bigger than Charlie, bigger than Candace, bigger than Jaguar. It's going to change everything. So stay tuned. Because the next revelation might just be the one that blows the entire empire apart. The entire empire apart.